Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. Yeah, my role pretty much the partnership manager, so I help out and try to get brand awareness of OFX out there. And I've been at OFX for 8 years now, so it's been some time. I used to be a manager on the dealing desk, working with clients, so I'm well aware of the situations that many clients go through in terms of when they are relocating overseas. Me myself, I'm originally from New Zealand, so I've lived in Australia for 8 years as well. So pretty much first job coming to Australia was working for OFX,
So
and
you've
before that,
experienced the moving as well, which is really good.
yeah, and I actually have a unique one because moving from New Zealand to Australia is not too hard. Both countries are pretty unique, and the fact that we both use the visa switch, so we don't have to worry about any of the visa issues. But I came from the US where I was studying, so I spent a year in the US, or a bit over a year in the US. So absolutely loved it over there in Texas, but then moved to Sydney. So kind of went in a big triangle from New Zealand to Texas to Sydney. So, and this is where I am. So I'm well aware of the issues of moving around the world. I've even lived in the UK for a year. So, yeah,
Cool.
hopefully
So
I
can you,
can provide some insight.
fantastic. Can you tell us a bit more about OFX and the things that you can do to help people move abroad?
Yeah, sure. So OFX is pretty much a payments company. So what we do global payments, so helping businesses as well as individuals um, transfer their funds overseas cheaper and faster than going through the bank. So what does that typically mean? When you go to your bank, you usually pay a standard, $20 transfer fee, and that's what you think is the expense. However, there's usually hidden fees alongside that with the exchange rate that they provide. So OFX, we can typically save you up to 3%. Doesn't really sound like much, but when you are moving your life savings, or you're doing, mortgage repayments, or payments overseas, just and they add up over time. So 3% on $100,000 worth of life savings, it's $3,000. I'd
Yeah, it's a
much
lot of
rather have
money.
that in my pocket than put it in the banks.
Yeah, that can make a big difference when you're setting up your new life here and you're buying furniture and putting down bonds on your rental and everything like that. So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's if it's coming from like the UK, we've got offices all around the world. So we've got a London office. So it would just be a domestic payment in the UK, and then funds come in. You would agree upon the exchange rate, so you know exactly how much Australian dollars you'll get before you ever send funds to OFX, and then we'll release the funds from a local bank account here in Australia. So it'll be local transfer at both ends, so you wouldn't get any hidden fees. Similar to the US, we've got a San Francisco office and a Toronto office in Canada, so cover both the east and western seaborders, and we can actually US banking system is a bit harder than the rest of the world. So we can actually direct debit the funds out of your bank account if you find it hard to get the funds to us. Yeah, so it's been very busy, but pretty much service for a consumer, exactly the same. We've got online service, so you can either do it on your phone app or you can do it on the website, or you have the luxury of calling up someone. Especially when you are moving your life savings, you probably do want to talk to someone to make sure you're getting the handheld experience. So that's probably sets us apart from a few of our competitors out there in the market. So if you do need to talk to someone, we will give you a call when you do set up your OFX account just to understand your own situation. And then also, if you have any questions about the whole process, we can walk you through that. If you want to wait till it goes down to a certain rate, we do have the option to alert you. We do have daily commentary that you can actually look at. We have actually a 3-month forecast. So every 3 months, we actually provide any of our clients a 3-month forecast. So it gives you some certainty of what events are coming up and what will affect the Australian dollar and against other major currencies. So we're here to kind of guide you through your journey.
Yeah.
I can't commit to saying that Australian dollar is going to go one way or another. I wish I could, because I'll probably be retired. But yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that you mentioned about whether you do rate alerts where people can kind of register to say when the rates are favourable for them, that they might want to then move their money, and that's like a non-committal thing. You can just alert them, and then if they decide they want to move the money, then they can. Is that right?
Yeah, we can do both. So you can have a rate alert. Anyone can do it. You don't even have to be an OFX customer to do rate alerts. We actually offer it for free. So if you go to our website, you can put in a rate that you want to be send a text message or an email, and we'll do that. If you're an OFX customer, you can just download our app, and you can do it on the app. If you do want, and you're usually this is when you're like probably within 30 days of making a purchase or moving your money, and you're really hoping for a rate to be reached, we can actually watch the market for you and purchase it as soon as it gets to a rate. I probably wouldn't do it for longer than a month, because you'll probably be the one watching the rate every day, and looking for it, because over a month it can be quite volatile. So usually people put in limit orders to automatically purchase as soon as kind of, if they're looking to book in a full contract, or if it's doing over a week and they're like, oh, well, the range is only going to be a few percentage. And then, yeah. But it's a great option to have, but we're happy to walk you through that over the phone, because we wouldn't expect you to kind of walk into one of those full contracts or limit orders if you don't know what you're doing. So we'll definitely talk to you what your current situation is and make sure it's right for you.
Yeah, great. And when somebody comes to you and they want to go online and set up an account, is that a really straightforward process? Do they have to provide lots of identification? What's the verification process like?
It should be straightforward. Like most people are usually able to register within 3 to 5 minutes online. Depending on what country you're from will depend on your identification requirements. So if you're from, say, the US or the UK, Europe, or New Zealand, we've got electronic verification. So what that means is we're able to, base off your name, your date of birth, and your street address, we're able to run a background check and just to verify that you are who you say you are. So we might not even need photo ID or proof of address, because based off the information you already provided us, we can verify you. If we do require photo ID, it will just be a photocopy, or you can take an iPhone these days or smartphone, just an image of your passport or your driver's license. And then you can just use a proof of address as like an online bank statement, or if it's on your driver's license, you can use that. But that should be all turned around. Like if you're electronically verified, you should be able to activate your account in under 5 minutes. If you do require to upload photo ID, it should be within the next day to be verified, but usually done within a couple of hours.
Okay. And then if somebody they'd verified their account, they want to move their money, what would be the process then?
That process is also quite straightforward, because you'll receive a call when you register. That call is more of just to understand your transfer needs. So you'll pretty much say that I'm looking to relocate to Australia. And then either they can walk you through that process right then and there, if you do want to move money at that point in time, or they can send you through a guide online. It's usually you just log in, or you log into the app with your fingerprint, and then you just select how much you want to send in your home currency, or the amount you want to receive in Australian dollars. And then once you're happy with an exchange rate, you just hit confirm. You either enter the bank details you already have for your Australian dollar bank account. If you don't have an Australian dollar bank account, you can put TBA, which is to be announced. Yeah, so that process, like say from the UK to Australia, that should be a one-day payment. So we provide you with our Barclays account in the UK, and it's pretty much an instant payment to OFX from any bank in the UK. And then we'll just release it from our local bank here in Australia into your bank of your choice.
Okay, That sounds easy.
Yeah,
Great.
hopefully.
If you've got one piece of advice that you'd like to give to families who are planning on moving to Australia, what would that be? It can be about finance, currency,
Yeah.
anything at all.
I'll try not to make it about finance because that's probably too easy for me. And I don't want to put people to sleep. I'll probably make it more about from my life scenarios that I've lived in, because I have lived in the UK, New Zealand, Australia, and the US. And I think the number one thing that I kind of felt after relocating overseas is to not compare everything to back home. I had the habit of doing it, and I didn't actually know I was doing it until someone told me off. It was one of my family. And then I still to this day, I have to make sure to remind myself not to actually be that person who compares everything back to home, because I'll do it in my head, but then it creates a bit of a negativity as well, because whenever you talk to other people, you always compare the positives that you had, the memories that you, because it's just natural. You have your positive memories of back home, and then you try to pass that on to your friends and your family that you kind of interact with, and then they kind of only see as you that person who always talks about the other place. And when you're actually in this new place, you're like, oh, why aren't you actually enjoying it here? And like, oh, I am, but I seem to always talk about back home. So it was like when I was in the US, in my memory, I was like, oh wow, I miss, because I was from New Zealand. I was like, oh, I miss like really clean water. I miss kind of just like the natural outdoors, and I miss it being like a more of a tempered climate because I was in Texas. But then when I was back in New Zealand, I was like, oh, I miss the cheap food. I miss the sports. I miss all these things. So like my New Zealand family were like, oh, why don't you just move back to America? And then while I was in America, they were like, oh, why don't you just move back to New Zealand? So it was a massive reality hit. And I think I'm definitely not the only person who actually fell into that trap, but it's definitely one of my biggest life lessons to actually be grateful for where you are. And
that's good.
When you're with other people, talk about what they can relate to and not just about back home. So I think it would help anyone that is going to move overseas, because I wish someone tapped me on the shoulder when I first moved to overseas to tell me that, because I probably wouldn't have. I would have more friends, I guess.
And I think it helps you not feel so homesick when you're really looking at all of the really amazing things that are in front of you rather than everything that was behind you. You're more grateful for it, and it focuses your attention on the positives that you've got at the moment. So I think that's a really good point. That's really cool. Cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so it's kind of like Instagram. Everyone posts like the most amazing things in their life, but it's kind of what you talk about with other people. You only talk about the amazing things. So
but it's also
it's
good.
Definitely fun.
I find it good to have sort of friends who are from your home as well, your original home, because
definitely.
then you can kind of share all of the stuff that you remember from there as well with them. So it's amazing having lots of Australian friends as well and sharing all of what's great about Australia with them. But I've got a few good expat friends who are from the UK and from my hometown, and it's kind of nice to have those sort of in-jokes that we get with each other, because we've got that sort of sense of commonality. So that's cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Ed. That's been really helpful. And I'll put your details on the side of the video with the link to OFX if anybody wants to find out more. Thank you.
No, perfect. Well, thank you very much for having me, and I really look forward to coming up to Brisbane and catching up again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.